Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here on this beautiful Friday. Happy Friday, by the way. And I am very much looking forward to speaking with you all regarding job interviews. It's something that I, and as well as everybody here, knows all too well. It is one of the most critical critical pieces, I should say, in the overall recruiting process. And I've had my fair share of stories, advice, and tips that I have garnered well over the years. And so I'm very much looking forward to bringing that back all to you and being able to utilize it as you expand further with your professional development. And so with that in mind, I will initiate my presentation. All right. And so I am so excited to introduce to you all about what I like to call brand you. How to showcase your true self in interviews. Obviously, the word brand is pretty much synonymous not only within this PR university, but also everywhere throughout the professional development world. It's something that we have become synonymous when it comes to showcasing the true versions of ourselves, especially in job interviews. And so I'm going to be giving you the roadmap as to what we're going to be discussing in this presentation today. So what exactly is brand you? And so I'm really excited to talk to you about what my definition of brand you is and how does it ultimately connect to job interviewing? Because I think we can all universally agree is that the brand that you showcase is what's ultimately going to be a key clog in helping you securing your next opportunity, whether it's an actual corporate position, in-house or agency, or an internship. Next up after that, we got the alignment between your personal values with corporate, the organization that you're trying to seek a new position at. We got after that, verbal and nonverbal communication, the role of effective branding, authentic presentation, and the effective tools that you can utilize for job interviews. And of course, unlocking the power of authenticity, a word that is so very much synonymous in the world of corporate communications. And so, as I've mentioned, in today's uber competitive landscape, authenticity is very much the greatest asset that you, as a job seeker, can have. And so, this presentation is going to explore the concept of what I like to call brand you, which empowers candidates to communicate their true selves during job interviews and as well as internship opportunities. And there's also going to be a chance where you might be able to showcase your brand you as well through thought leadership opportunities as well. And so before we dive in, I wanted to give all of you an example of one of my favorite female singers, Rihanna. And so when you think about Rihanna, what is the first thing that pops up in your head when you see her? And so when for me personally, it is a singer because that's how she has made her career. But as you start peeling off the layers and exploring more and more what are her capabilities, you start to see that there is a connotation between the ways to how you present yourself and how can it be utilized in job interviews. So she is a singer, an actress, a philanthropist, the ambassador of her home country in Barbados, and she's also an entrepreneur. And you might also know her through some of her entrepreneurial endeavors like Fenty Beauty, Skin Beauty, Savage and Fenty, and so forth. But what does all of this have in common? The thing is that this is Rihanna, the brand, and this is what she has utilized in her way to further expand her footprint. You see, now in today's corporate world, multi-versatility matters. And now you can pretty much diversify yourself and position yourself as a brand and as a business. As a matter of fact, you may want to start thinking yourself as a business. And the reason why is because you are selling a product or service, which in this case is yourself. And as a business, you'll be able to formulate a very diverse set of skill sets because we all, as individuals, have a very special, unique gift that we can share and utilize to maximize our own being. And that is something that employers are very much interested in. And so in order to make it into the corporate world, you need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. And the same can be said entrepreneurially, that in order for you to succeed in wherever it is that you want to go, you also need to have a corporate structure as well. And so the reason why I am showing you this example of Rihanna is because she is seen as a brand, and her brand has power. And as a job seeker, you have the capabilities to customize your brand the way that you want to. It is the chance for you to be unique. What exactly it is that you want the employer to know about you? What differentiates you from the field? And I will explain that in the next set of upcoming slides. All right, so now we move on to the next slide, which is what is brand you? And so, which is quite the unique concept. Throughout my almost approximate 15 years working in corporate America, and now transitioning over to the entrepreneurial side. And so my definition of what brand you is the importance of authenticity and self-expression. Be uniquely you. This is the chance for you as an individual to empower yourself and be able to effectively communicate who you are, what you represent, and other unique qualities that make you you. What makes you special? What is your mission, your vision, your values? What's your why? Those core components are going to be able to help you craft what it is exactly that you want to showcase to the employer, and being able to now transitioning on to the next point, tell a story. What is your story? Because the reason that communications is one of the most powerful assets is because communications is storytelling. The true essence of communication stems from storytelling. We all have something to share, and in every form, it is our responsibility to be able to tell our story in a way that is going to foster real, genuine connections and paves ultimately to a call to action. And that sentiment can also be adapted in job interviews. We all have, from a professional standpoint, we all have something very exciting to share, whether it's you worked for some of the most prestigious agencies, or maybe in-house if you work for a prominent tech company or a media company, or you've worked with someone who has, who is an industry legend. All of these things are critical pieces for you to talk about in the interview rounds. And so you want to be able to develop a story that's going to be relatable, unique, and ultimately generate empathy that the employer ultimately is going to have a certain connection with and be able to engage in conversations with you. And speaking of your story can also catapult you to be able to become a thought leader yourself, and give the opportunity to educate and inspire. Consider interviews as your training ground. Practice how you present yourself and why people should invest in you. Remember, you're selling yourself. This is the chance for you to showcase your brand out to the world. What exactly is the employer looking in a candidate, and do you have the right set of skills, tangible and intangible, that align to what the employer is looking for? And also at the same time, you also want to take into account, well, what exactly the employer in return can deliver for you. All right, so now we're going to talk about the next step in the interview process, which is the alignment, meaning aligning your personal values with the corporate culture. And so the first point in to prepare you for any job interview is to actually research the organization. Understand the company itself, from the services, the products, the mission, the vision, the values, the trends, and so much more. Having a good clear understanding as to what the organization is from both a marketing, a business, and an operational standpoint will give you a leg. Will make you stand out in the competition. And plus, if it's an organization that directly aligns with the next point that I'm going to be presenting, it's also going to be something that is again going to make you a candidate to watch out for. The next point is personal values. And you want to reflect on your personal values. What is your why? And you really want to ultimately make that into a business. What is the component in all of this as well? And finally, the alignment. Point number 3. So you want to be able to articulate your values and brand with the company culture. Do they align? And if so, how? And ultimately, you're looking for a match. It kind of you may want to take this as you're in a shoe store and you're trying to find the perfect shoe, and you got a plethora of options that you have to ultimately try till you get the right fit. In today's market, many employers are much more strategic in terms as to how they are vetting candidates, and figuring out exactly what it is that they are looking for in their in their preferred candidate. And so it is up to us, the job seekers, to be able to do our own research of the organization and being able to discover what it is that they do, and figure out as to whether or not is the organization a fit for me, because ultimately I always view job opportunities as partnerships. And so you want to be able to find an organization that is also going to equally be beneficial to you in terms of your career. There may be a certain skill set that, or again, the brand name of the organization can still very much carry weight onto this day. Whatever your preference is, you want to make sure that just like they have a wish list, you as well have your own wish list as to what are your expectations the of the role itself. What exactly are the immediate needs of the role? How does is this role going to be heavily cross collaborated with other departments, or is this going to be strictly a one person shop? And as well as the relationship with your direct supervisor. How often are you going to be meeting with with that supervisor? What is his or her vision, and how does your brand be able to align with whatever it is that the hiring manager is looking for? All right. And so now we move on to the creation of a compelling narrative. So obviously, if you're going to be in the if you're going to be job hunting and you end up in a situation where you are now into the interview rounds, it is incredibly important for you to develop a compelling narrative. What is your story? And so here are some tactics that you can utilize when you develop your own story. The first is figuring out what is going to be those strategic storytelling techniques. Again, it's all about standing out in the field, what's going to differentiate you from the other candidates. And so you want to be able to structure your story and as well as your answers with key themes to ensure that it tailors exactly to the job description and the organization. And if you want, you can also add visuals too to complement it. ultimately, when you read the job description and you start figuring out what what areas do you and the and the job description stands for, then you'll be able to create concrete answers that directly address what it is that that they need, and how does your experience fulfill that key requirement. The next point that I want to make out is the STAR method. And obviously everybody knows what STAR is. It is situation, task, action, and result. And so you want to be able to develop your story that ties to the STAR method. So you may so for S, which is a situation, you may want to describe the content. T, which is task, explain the role and responsibilities. A, which is action, which is detail specific actions to address, and R, which is the result, to highlight the outcomes. And so I recommend in every answer that you give, you may want to have 2 to key strong messaging / talking points that utilize the STAR method. So let's say, for instance, if a hiring manager asks you about a situation where you have dealt with a challenge, and what did you do to overcome that, and what was the lesson learned, you can utilize the STAR method to help you create an answer that highlights the content or the synopsis of the situation, explaining what was your role in it, how you tackled it through specific actions, and make sure if you do have statistics for it, add those in, because a lot of organizations love numbers, and as well as highlighting the outcomes. The next point is antidotes. And so being able to engage with the interviewer or interviewers with a relatable story. Find areas of common interest that can be icebreakers. I definitely think that in the interview process, and you will know right away, there needs to be some sort of icebreaker where you want to be able to create an environment that is pretty much like a conversation, because that's what most job interviews are ultimately all about. It's about creating discussions between yourself and the organization, and figuring out areas of common interest. And so before every interview, it is highly recommended that you research and find out more about the hiring manager and the team as well. So obviously with LinkedIn, it is easily accessible. So you could go to their page, or if they have a website, whether it's personal or professional, everybody now has one. You can also go in and figure out and learn a little bit more about the interviewer or interviewees. And then on the day of the interview, before you initiate the conversation, you can then select something that is in common interest with the interviewer, to break the ice. And in many ways, make you feel much more confident in the conversation. So let's say, for instance, if you were looking at the LinkedIn page of a hiring manager, and you found out that the individual works at a nonprofit, dedicates her time volunteering at an animal shelter, and you love animals, that will be a great icebreaker for you to be able to initiate with that conversation. That way, breaks the ice. You already have something in common, and then you can start talking about it a little bit more, and then it eases any nerves that you may have, and you'll be able to mellow out and be able to confidently and efficiently be able to move into the interview process. And then the fourth point that I want to mention in the creation of a compelling narrative is active listening. It's probably it's probably one that is pretty much underutilized, but I truly believe that listening is something that all of us communications pros should have, because ultimately what we want to do is to pay attention. We want to be able to listen and understand what exactly is there was the problem. Every employer has has an issue that needs to be resolved, and we, the interviewees, are the solution. And so the solution that we bring to the table is our brand, our services, our skill sets, whatever it is that can directly address and, more importantly, fix the problem that they have. Which is why I think it's important that we position ourselves as businesses, because that way you'll be able to identify what exactly the interviewer is needing, and then you'll be able to align their problem with the solution you bring to the table. And so listen very carefully throughout the interview process how the interviewer is explaining some of the issues that his or her department, or if it's only one person, what he or she is dealing with. And then through cues and nonverbal communication, which we will discuss momentarily, you'll be able to adjust the narrative as needed. And so if he or she expresses a certain aspect, be ready to elaborate that even further, which is why it's incredibly important as well towards the very end of the process, towards the very end of the interview, to follow up and be able to again reiterate in your thank you notes as well some of the key points that were discussed throughout the interviews. All right, so now we move on to verbal and nonverbal communications in interviews. And so there's always something that I have in my brain every single time, is that the majority of how we express ourselves is nonverbal. As a matter of fact, 65% of our communication is nonverbal. And so the ways that how you present yourself, how you showcase interest in a certain area, is very telling to both parties. And so if you are in the room, whether it's virtually or in person, you want to be able to give off a very positive very positive interaction experience, and being able to showcase that you are worthy of their intention, their time, and ultimately the end goal, which is to secure the role. And so some of the ways that you can communicate, obviously verbally, is again through normal conversations, answering the questions, being very attentive, listening, and being able to adjust your stories slash answers when needed. But we also have some nonverbal cues that you may want to learn from, and four are listed in front of you. The first is body language, and so having eye contact, gestures, facial expressions, paralinguistics, haptics, and so forth. The way as to how the way as to how you look at the interviewer virtually on camera, or if you are in person, obviously directly talking to the individual, your gestures, facial expressions, the ways to how you're attentively listening, and so forth. Engagement is point number two. So being able to be actively engaged in conversation and listen and actively listen to adjust, like I just mentioned. And the reason why is because it reflects authenticity and build trust. Ultimately, as a brand, you want to be able to be a brand that is very credible and authentic. And so in the corporate communications world, we always talk about cementing your credibility. And it takes years to genuinely know your market, who is your who your audience interacts with, what is their behavior, how often do they consume media, through what channels, and how can organizations be able to develop messaging that directly aligns with what their audience, whether it's universal or targeted, are seeking. The same can be said here in the interview process. ultimately you want to be able to build trust and be able to have a very credible brand that employers can very much be interested in learning more about, and eventually bringing you on board to be able to assist them in their key business objectives. The next point that I want to reiterate is emotions. And being emotionally engaged can very much leave a lasting impact. Share your thoughts and foster a sense of empathy. And I think it's really important, for you to to be emotionally aware of your surroundings and have a read of the room. Look and see as to how they're reacting to your answers. How are they taking it? Is there anything that you can further elaborate on if perhaps maybe one person is looking a little bit puzzled? So and also find develop key points within your experience that could very much leave an impact. Many employers are gonna remember you if you say something that just simply resonates. We all meet so many people nowadays, but there's always going to be a moment where you are going to be able to say something memorable, and that's what you want. You want the employer to remember you by. And the interview is the perfect place for you to be able to showcase that. And finally, the posture. The position of your body can very much indicate the person's mood or how he or she views someone. So if you're standing like straight and upright, focused, looking at the person, making natural eye contact, hand gestures, facial expressions, and so forth, it shows them that you're interested and fully engaged in the conversation. It also shows off eagerness. Normally, when you show eagerness, it automatically gives that that you're very ambitious, and that you're ready and willing to roll up your sleeves and get ready to work, whether it's with an employer or doing your own career aspirations. But if you're like lounging back like this, slacking, not really fully making eye contact, not paying attention to what is happening around, then it does give a negative impression and demonstrates that you're not interested. And that's the wrong message that you want to send to any employer. All right, so now we move on into the role of how to the role of effective communications in interviews. There are 6 methods that all of you can utilize, and some of them you obviously may have heard from earlier. What it is that that you can implement. So obviously, the first is a word that has been synonymous in today's activities is personal branding, and so is the establishment of a recognizable professional identity, and it's so important in your career growth. Um, and and um, and I truly think that we are now at a time where we can now be creative in who we are and what we represent. We can actually customize our own brands to our own liking. So what does that entail? So you may want to create your own logo. You may want to have your own font, your own brand colors. Uh, you can create your font, your mission, your vision. You can pretty much you have an open canvas, pick up a paintbrush and then paint what exactly it is do I want people to know me by. If you have some of your favorite brands that you look up to, look as to how they present themselves, and see and see as to how you can implement that. Just being very unique in what you do professionally is something that is very much going to leave a mark. And so for us communications pros, we may want to, this is our choice. We can now diversify ourselves, so we don't have to just solely be working at a single employer for 20 years. It's our decision and we can do that. But you can now diversify into multiple arenas. So you can have a corporate job, whether it's agency or in house, or whatever the position ultimately is. You can also be a content creator. You could be a podcast host. You can venture into the entrepreneurial field. Who knows? Maybe you might create your own business brand. You now have the power to customize it to your liking and be able to develop core and transferable skill sets that is going to be very critical as you advance further in your career, and something that is going to be very lucrative for employers. The next point is social media. So obviously leveraging your digital channels to enhance your online presence, whether it's through LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, podcasting, a website. You now have a plethora of communications mediums for you to be able to talk about areas that you're incredibly passionate about. Develop community and being able to solidify yourself as a brand. Again, that showcases to employers that you actually know how to develop strategic communications, fun, innovative content, build community, and ultimately generate revenue. Through communications, one of the many one of the many things that that we do to bring in new business is through storytelling and consistent messaging, which oddly enough, it transitioned us right into our next point, which is being able to create consistent messaging across all platforms. Make it universally, or if you're targeting a specific market or audience, make sure it's appealing for them, and it emphasizes who you are as a brand. So being able to have a strong, being able to have a strong, unique brand and messaging is going to help you stand out. And it's essential to define what makes you unique from other candidates. Next up is connections. Authenticity normally fosters genuine connections with interviewers. Whether you present your true self, you can create an environment of trust, relatability, and openness. The great thing about job interviews is that you can take this as a networking opportunity. So if you ended up going through an interview process and you met with a hiring manager that you instantly got along with, you'll be able to continue that connection. You'll be able to continue that connection because you never know if you're going to be crossing paths with with that individual again. And so now, thanks to the power of thanks to social media, we can now connect with individuals very quickly and be able to continue following and fostering that relationship. Next up is brand and growth. So personal branding is not a one-time effort. It is an ongoing process. And as such, you have to regularly assess and refine your brand as you grow personally and professionally. And when you undergo the interview process, this is also your chance for you to see as to how your brand performs. Did you answer clearly and concisely the questions as to what the hiring manager is asking you, and also figuring out ways as to how you can improve yourself, whether it's through a branding or a response standpoint. This is your chance to get feedback and be able to adjust your game plan, and then be able to get back out there in the field and be able to initiate whatever new plans that you have. And finally, networking. Network actively throughout the interview process to reinforce your personal brand and expand your connections. And it's something that, again, as we connect, networking and connections both go hand in hand. When you network with someone, ultimately is going to foster connections, and so it just solely reinforces your professional persona, and being able to expand that further to new opportunities that could open up for you down the line. All right. So now we move on to the next slide, which is authentic presentation and the effective interview tools that I've used, and what you can potentially utilize in your interview process. And so, one effective tool is what we like to call an elevator pitch. Is something that is very short, quick, and to the point. 30 seconds, clear and concise, and so neatly explaining who you are, what you do, and your why. And so, I'm sure everybody has heard of the question, um, uh, tell me what you do, or describe yourself, or describe yourself. Um, I can't think of the point right now, but you get the idea. So when the interviewer asks you what it is that you normally do, this is such an open-ended question, but this is where the interview pitch comes in handy. This is where you get to explain as to quickly as to what it is that you have done throughout your what have you done, whether it's if you are in still in the universities, you get to do quickly what it is that you've done throughout your university tenure, whether it's in any clubs, sports, academics, whatever it is that directly aligns with the position that you are applying for. And also states who you are and why. Why are you interested in this arena? Why should I be interested in you? And you can also utilize this elevator pitch at events, any thought leadership opportunities. You'll never know if you end up meeting a prominent chief communications officer of a well-known brand at a conference, and you have the opportunity to quickly explain to that individual, and if it's somewhere that you really want to work at, this could be the elevator pitch could be your prime opportunity for you to quickly sell what it is that you represent, and what your brand stands for, and how does it quickly align with the organization that you're trying to seek. The next effective interview tool is mock interviews, something that is synonymous with professional development. I've used it plenty of times. I'm sure you all have as well. Conducting mock interviews is a great way for you to practice, rehearse, and be able to build confidence in yourself. You'll be able to be in the driver's seat once you already have a feel for how the interview process is going to go. Sometimes there are processes that go multiple rounds, where you meet with the human resource, and then meet with the hiring manager, and then with the team, or you go directly to the hiring manager, and then you meet with with the team, sometimes through panel interviews. Whatever it is, mock interviews are a great way for you to get ready for that. And so do mock interviews with your peers, your mentors, or friends, family, whomever it is, and be able to practice and see as to almost very like almost in a very potential real life interview scenario, how you're going to be able to initiate your game plan. And also use interview prep tools such as Udl to practice your responses and confidence. And so you also want to have you also want to have the opportunity to practice behavioral interviewing, where you'll have a chance to uncover some of the job related behaviors that come along with the position that you're applying for. And finally, the last effective tool is feedback. Obviously, after every interview process, you do your very best to obtain the feedback, whether it's through the mock interviews or posts. I know sometimes now, due to legal protocols and requirements, many organizations stay away from offering feedback. But whenever you get the chance to do so, I strongly recommend you obtaining it. And so make sure that you get feedback again from your peers, your experts, your mentors, and even the hiring manager if there is an opening. And then utilize the feedback that they give you to measure how your brand and answers were perceived and refine them and adjust as needed. Sometimes, sometimes it's always great to figure out ways as to how we can improve ourselves. And constructive feedback is a great way for us to understand what led what led the employer to say no, or maybe you felt that it might have not been the right fit after conversations with the employer itself. And so just trying to just trying to be able to try to assimilate what it is that you have done wrong, and being able to adjust your plans and practice again will be critical later on as you continue through the interview process. Remember, practice makes perfect. The more times that you rehearse and be able to adapt the feedback that you have garnered, the better chance that you have to rectifying those loopholes, strengthening them, and then ultimately being able to deliver the best version of yourself that will ultimately help you land the role. And so our next slide is unlocking the power of authenticity. Obviously, authenticity is a word that reigns supreme in the corporate communications world. We always tell our clients to be authentic in what it is that they want to represent. And so, hashtag tell your story. All of us here have a strong story that sets us apart from the competitive field. We all have something very eagerly that we want to share. Differentiate yourself, utilize your story as a platform, and become a valuable commodity, because ultimately, through the diversification of our brands and skill sets, we're going to be able to tell unique, beautiful stories that are not only going to align with the immediate needs of the employer, but we are also going to make ourselves valuable. And ultimately, we start planting seeds to generate their interest and to get them curious as to what it is that we're offering, and compel them to come back. And finally, transformation. Being able to transform your interview experience into an opportunity for meaningful engagement. This is like I said, this is the chance for you to network and be able to genuinely get to know the interviewer better. You never know, you might have found your new best friend. And so utilizing the job interview experience is a great way for you to foster engagement and being able to build meaningful connections and understand how they could play a role in your career, whether it's immediately or down the road. There is always an opportunity. Whenever a door closes, another one instantly opens up. And so this is and so take these opportunities as a chance for you to further move yourself and put you in prime position for whatever goals you ultimately want to achieve throughout your career. And now I am going to present to you a video that I think could bring the entire experience full circle. This is Andrew Stanton, one of the most potent animators up to this day. I'm sure you've seen Toy Story, Bambi. But there is a particular point towards the very end in the video that he makes that I want all of you to assimilate.
I walked out of there wide-eyed with wonder. And that's what I think the magic ingredient is, the secret sauce, is can you invoke wonder? Wonder is honest, it's completely innocent, it can't be artificially evoked. For me, there's no greater ability than the gift of another human being giving you that feeling. To hold them still just for a brief moment in their day, and have them surrender to wonder. When it's tapped, the affirmation of being alive reaches you almost to a cellular level. And when an artist does that to another artist, it's like you're compelled to pass it on. It's like a dormant command that's suddenly activated in you, like a call to Devil's Tower. Do unto others what's been done to you. The best stories infuse wonder. When I was 4 years old, I have a vivid memory of finding 2 pinpoint scars on my ankle and asking my dad what they were. And he said, I had a matching pair like that on my head, but I couldn't see them because of my hair. And he explained that when I was born premature, that it came out much too early, and I wasn't fully baked. I was very, very sick. And that when the doctor took a look at this yellow kid with black teeth, he looked straight at my mom and said, he's not going to live. And I was in the hospital for months. And many blood transfusions later, I lived. And that made me special. I don't know if I really believe that. I don't know if my parents really believe that. But I didn't want to prove them wrong. Whatever I ended up being good at, I would strive to be worthy of the second chance I was given.
And so now all of this is brought to a full circle here. Regardless as to where you are at whatever stage you are in your career, whether you're just starting or one that has been in the industry already for 25 plus years, the magic of wonder is what's going to help you resonate and develop a real sense of belonging in your story. What he was trying to say to you is that in order for you to be who you are and being the best version of yourself, is to just simply be you. Embrace your gift. Embrace what you can bring to the table and be proud of it. And cultivate it in a way that you know for a fact it is going to be a real asset for you for your career. And the employer will ultimately see that, because they too are also looking for talent that is not only going to help them achieve their business objectives, but they also want to help you. And so when you go through the job interview process, and when you do your research, and when you sit, whether it's virtually or in person, having real meaningful connections with the interviewer or interviewers, know that ultimately whatever job that you choose, it's a partnership. It is a partnership between both parties, one that is going to be beneficial for both. And so just like they are looking at you and they're looking at your brand as to what you can bring to the table, the same thing has to happen on the opposite end. What can the employer bring for you? How can the employer be able to help you further advance in your career? Whatever goals or preferences that you may have, that is up to you to decide. But ultimately, we all have something very unique and special that needs to be shown, and it is through our story. The ways to how we position ourselves is what's going to help us carry through these interview rounds and ultimately your career. All right, and so we have reached the very end of the presentation, Brand You. I hope all of you were able to get some very insightful information about the job interview process. And through my experience, I can easily tell you that there are plenty of questions that that can be asked. Some of the questions that I always ask employers include: what are your immediate needs? Where do you get your news each day? What part of the job that keeps you up at night? How can I help you relieve those pain points? And what do you think are the ideal qualities you want in your candidate? And how can I help? Because that is how that's how I see myself, is how can I help this employer get to where he or she needs to be. And so if you happen to have any questions, concerns, we can open it up now for any Q&As. But if anybody has any again, any thoughts, you need any mentorship or any thought leadership advice, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. These are all of my communication lines. And thank you so much for inviting me. And I hope to see you all again very soon. Thank you.